Yo, what's up, gamers? So, I came into the break room today and Sharon from marketing is standing next to the whiteboard labeled Classic Game Remaster Plan. Under it, she has 4 bullet points that say, upgrade visuals, preserve features, rework cutscenes, do not anger custom map goblins. And that's when I noticed the old toaster is missing, and there's now a new toaster on the counter with shiny buttons, a modern logo, and the haunted confidence of a product that says new experience right before it ruins breakfast. So I'm like, Sharon, where did the old toaster go? And she says, it lives inside the new toaster. Oh boy, that is not preservation, that is appliance possession. And that's when I remembered. That is basically what happened with Warcraft III Reforged. Blizzard promised to bring back one of its most important classics with updated visuals, modern features, and a respectful restoration. But when Reforged launched, fans did not just feel like the remaster was disappointing, many felt like the original Warcraft III had been dragged into the new client, changed underneath them, and handed back with missing features. So now I'll welcome you to the Janitor Files, the series where we mop up gaming's biggest disasters, broken promises, corporate decisions, and the messes the industry does not clean up. So I'm here to do it for them. So before we get into this, do me a favor, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Did Warcraft III Reforged fail because Blizzard overpromised, or because it forgot what fans wanted preserved? So let's grab a mop, because Sharon remastered the toaster, the classic client got absorbed into the new one, and we are cleaning up the Blizzard remaster that made fans ask who actually owned the Warcraft 3, and I'm gonna need your help with it. Let's get into it. To understand why Reforged hurt, you have to start in 2002. Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos launched in July of that year, and this thing did not walk quietly into PC gaming. It kicked the door open. It put hero units on the table and said, your real-time strategy army has character development now. And at the time, Warcraft 3 became the fastest-selling PC game in history. It sold over 1 million copies worldwide in roughly its first month. Blizzard shipped millions of units to meet demand, and critically, it was a monster. Reign of Chaos scored a 92 on Metacritic, it won major awards, including GameSpot's PC Game of the Year for 2002. So this was not just another real-time strategy, this was Blizzard taking a genre it already understood and giving it RPG flavor. Heroes leveled up, they gained abilities, they carried items, they became more fancy units with health bars. Suddenly your army was not just a blob of grunts marching into somebody else's bad decision, you had named characters, powers, progression, attachment. Warcraft 3 was one of the load-bearing walls in Blizzard's castle, and the remaster was eventually going to walk up to that wall with a toolbox, a marketing plan, and suspicious confidence. Then, in July 2003, Blizzard released The Frozen Throne, and the expansion also sold over 1 million copies in its first month. So now Warcraft 3 was not just a hit, it was a hit with staying power. And that matters because Warcraft 3 did something bigger than sell copies, it built the emotional foundation for modern Warcraft. Arthas Minithos fall, Thrall building a new future for the Horde, Jaina Proudmoore's trying to survive history throwing furniture at her, Illidan Stormrage, Sylvanaz Windrunner, the rise of the Lich King, the Night Elves, the Forsaken, the founding of Orgrimmar. So much of what World of Warcraft would build on came from the foundation Warcraft 3 helped lay. And World of Warcraft did not launch into an empty universe, it launched with characters, places, conflicts, and emotional baggage Warcraft 3 had already burned into players' brains. Early World of Warcraft development even overlapped with Warcraft 3, so that means the real-time strategy helped build the art style, the tone, and how people understood Azeroth. But Warcraft 3's legacy did not stop with Blizzard's own campaign, because players took the tools Blizzard gave them and started building things Blizzard never expected. In the game, Warcraft 3 had a world editor that turned the game into a playground, and players did what players always do when you give them tools. They built chaos with a file menu, with custom maps, tower defense games, RPG maps, arena modes, weird experiments, beautiful nonsense, the kind of nonsense that keeps the game alive for years. And then came Defense of the Ancients, also known as Dota. Dota evolved out of earlier custom map ideas, including the StarCraft map, Aeon of Strife, then became a Warcraft 3 custom map phenomenon. And what came out of that scene helped define the MOBA formula with lanes, heroes, items, leveling, team fights, destroying the enemy Ancient. The idea exploded far beyond Warcraft 3 with League of Legends, Dota 2, Heroes of New Earth, and Blizzard's own Heroes of the Storm. A giant chunk of 2010's esports and free-to-play gaming traces part of its bloodline back to people building wild stuff inside Warcraft 3. So by the time Blizzard eventually announced Warcraft 3 was coming back, the bar was already sky high. Then the 2018 reveal raised it even higher. Warcraft III Reforged was announced at BlizzCon on November 2nd, 2018, and Blizzard did not pitch it like a tiny cleanup job. They described it as a complete reimagining, a meticulous remake of Warcraft III Reign of Chaos and the Frozen Throne. The promise included fully remodeled heroes, units, buildings, and environments with 4K support, more than 62 missions, over 40 hours of gameplay, more than 40 hours of Reforged cutscenes, an upgraded world editor, modern Battle.net features, and balance updates. That sounded like Blizzard was giving one of its classics the premium treatment. Then fans saw the Culling of Stratholme demo, and that demo mattered. The camera work was more cinematic, characters were closer, scenes had more dramatic framing. Arthas confronting Uther and Jaina looked more modern, more animated, more like a proper restaging of a legendary Warcraft moment. So fans did not just expect Warcraft 3 with shinier shoulder pads, they expected what the word Reforged meant, including restoration, modernization, a classic rebuilt with care. During this show, Blizzard did not just show fans a fresh coat of paint, they showed them the model home. And pre-orders open right there in that excitement cloud, which is always dangerous because once money changes hands, the trailer is no longer just a trailer, it became a receipt with dramatic lighting. Over time, the bigger campaign and cutscene ambitions started getting pulled back. Publicly, Blizzard framed that shift as preservation. They said they were hearing fan feedback. They said players wanted the original story, the original voice acting, the original dialogue, and the true spirit of Warcraft 3 protected. And to be fair, that is real. Not every fan wanted a full rewrite, not every fan wanted World of Warcraft lore stitched into every corner, like sharing from marketing updating a classic logo until it looks like a shampoo bottle. Some players wanted the old campaign respected. They wanted the game they remembered, not a new version wearing Arthas' jacket. Reforged was originally targeted for 2019, but it slipped in January 2020. That delay was supposed to help with finishing touches, but instead, it became the last quiet hallway before the mop bucket tipped over. Warcraft III Reforged launched on January 28, 2020, and when players finally got it, the backlash hit hard. There were bugs, crashes, performance issues, stuttering, servers and connectivity problems, the visuals disappointed some players, the cutscenes were far below what the 2018 demo had led many fans to expect, the UI felt clunky and oversized, and then there were the missing features. No ranked ladder at launch, no clans, limited or missing player profiles, custom campaigns were not easily accessible through the normal menus, competitive and tournament support felt reduced, social features were missing, and for a remaster of a game with a long competitive and community history, that was a serious problem. Because this was not just the paint looks weird, this was where did the staircase go? Fans were furious, even the Metacritic score collapsed so hard it became part of the story. Reports at the time had it dropped to around 0.5 early on. It was one of those numbers that looked less like a review score and more like the game tripped over a decimal point and never got back up. Now the review bombing can exaggerate anger, that is true, but here the anger had a clear source. Fans did not feel like Reforged simply failed to add enough, they felt like it removed, altered, or complicated parts of Warcraft that were already there. And that leads to the part that made Reforged different from a normal bad remaster. It changed the house for people still living in the original. Usually when a remaster is bad, you can go back to the original, you shrug, you uninstall, you return to the classic version. You say, well, that was unpleasant, and then you go back to the old client like nothing happened. Reforged, however, made that harder. Blizzard unified Warcraft 3 into one Battle.net client and ecosystem. Classic Warcraft 3 owners were forced to update, and that meant people who still wanted the untouched original experience found themselves pulled into the Reforged structure. Original online features, menus, profiles, clans, ladder, automated tournaments, and easy custom campaign access were removed, altered, or broken at launch. Cross-compatibility was part of the goal, but the result affected everyone, not just the people buying the remaster, and that is why this hit so hard. A bad remaster is annoying. A bad remaster that changes access to the original is a different beast entirely. Reforged walked into the house, changed the locks, and then said the old couch lives here now. And while players were angry about the client problems, creators had their own reason to worry, because launch also brought a new rulebook for custom games. This is where Warcraft 3's custom map history comes back around. Remember the custom map scene that helped create entire genres? That history made the new policy sting, because when Reforged launched, it came with an updated custom game acceptable use policy. And people paid attention. The policy used very strong ownership language. It said custom games were the sole and exclusive property of Blizzard. It said creators assign rights, titles, and interest in those custom games to Blizzard, and Blizzard reserved the ability to remove or halt distribution. Now, from Blizzard's perspective, you can understand why the company wanted clearer control. Dota had escaped the map editor, evolved into a genre, and became a massive commercial space outside Blizzard's hands. But from the community's perspective, this felt like Blizzard locking down the creativity that made Warcraft legendary in the first place. Map makers looked at that policy and heard the legal department sharpening knives in the supply closet. Players were angry, creators were worried, features were missing, and the classic client did not feel protected. At that point, the cleanup had to be bigger than the normal patch note. Blizzard did respond though. They issued developer updates, they acknowledged problems, they said they were committed to long-term support, with bug fixes and restoring features. On the cutscene issue, they repeated the preservation line, and said they did not want to sheer too far from the original, but the backlash was already massive, so Blizzard expanded refunds beyond the normal policy, allowing players who felt Reforged did not deliver the expected experience to request one. That is not something you want attached to a Blizzard Classic Remaster. This is the fire alarm wearing a name tag, and at this point the public timeline was already ugly. 2018 had the big reveal, 2019 had the scaled back promise and delay, January 2020 had the launch backlash, the missing features, the classic client problem, and the custom games policy. Blizzard could promise repairs, but the trust hit had already landed. Then about a year and a half later, reporting started filing what may have been happening behind the curtain. This is where we have to be careful, because the behind-the-scenes drama comes from reporting, not from Blizzard walking onto a stage and saying, "Good evening, everyone. We have misplaced a project." In July 2021, Bloomberg published a report by Jason Schreier, which was later covered by GameSpot, Eurogamer, PC Gamer, and other outlets. According to that reporting, Warcraft III Reforged suffered from budget constraints, limited resources, low internal priority, mismanagement, financial pressure, and pressure to ship. The reporting also said the team had taken pre-orders when the game was not ready, and that some internal concerns argued Blizzard should have taken more time, even if that meant refunding those pre-orders. Because after launch, Warcraft III Reforged did not just vanish into the break room ceiling tiles, Blizzard kept working on it. But the repair job took years, with ranked play, profiles, and leaderboards arrived in patch 1.33 in August 2022. Clans arrived in patch 1.34 in December 2020. Custom campaign improved in patch 1.35 in January 2023. Support continued, and in November 2024, the 2.0 update brought bigger improvements, environment and lighting overhauls, a revamped UI, HD classic assets with mix and match options, a hotkey editor, ladder improvements, quality of life changes. So yes, Warcraft 3 Reforged improved. That matters. The game today is not frozen in its 2020 launch state, but the long patch timeline also shows how much was missing from the version players got on day one. When major features have to come back years later, that is not just post-launch polish, that is the mob crew rebuilding the floor after people already fell through it. The game got better, but the launch told fans something they did not forget. Warcraft 3 Reforged did not make people hate Warcraft 3, that would have been a tragedy. Warcraft 3 was still good, the campaign was still important, the factions were still iconic, the custom map legacy still mattered, the core game underneath still had value, the problem was everything wrapped around it. Reforged became a symbol of Blizzard's reputation problems. Fans compared it to the old Blizzard standard, where the company was known for polish, patience, and releasing games when they were ready. And Reforged felt like the opposite. Rushed, compromised, inconsistent, careless with something fans already loved. The community today is still split. Some players say Reforged is much better now, some enjoy the updates, some appreciate the improvements, and that is fair. But others still remember the launch, because the biggest damage was not just the bugs, it was the message. Blizzard could take a beloved classic, fold the old experience into a new client, ship it missing features, tighten the rules around custom games, and then spend years putting pieces back together. That is why this disaster stuck. Not because Warcraft 3 stopped being great, but because Reforged made fans question whether the classic experience was still protected. And that is where the mop bucket lands. Warcraft III Reforged misunderstood preservation. Preservation is not just putting new features on old models, it is protecting the experience people came back for. The campaign, the features, the client, the custom games, the community, and the ability to return to the classic without feeling the launcher change the locks. Warcraft 3 mattered because it was a commercial hit, a critical darling, a foundation for World of Warcraft, and a platform players helped turn into something even bigger. That is why Reforged hurt. Blizzard promised restoration, but the final product felt smaller than the promise, messier than expected, and less respectful than what fans already had. Warcraft 3 Reforged did not fail because fans hated Warcraft 3, it failed because Blizzard sold fans a restoration of a classic, then shipped something that made the classic feel less safe than before. Now we're back in the break room, and I see Sharon proudly turning on the new toaster. It has those shiny buttons, a new logo, a modern interface, and then I notice the old toaster is gone. So I'm like, Sharon, can I keep the original toaster? And she says, of course, it has been preserved inside the new toaster experience. Sounds to me like I'm going to have to go dumpster diving. Well, that's all I got. I gotta bounce before Sharon follows the trademark on my bagel, and the dumpster truck comes by before I even have a chance to get that old toaster. So before I go, do me a favor, hit like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want more gaming disasters cleaned up from the break room, and comment down below. Did Warcraft 3 Reforged fail because Blizzard overpromised, or because it forgot what fans wanted preserved? This is Scruffy the Janitor signing off. Peace out.